All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Had meetings, had practice Sunday evening. Our young men have a great attitude. Again, certainly coming off a disappointing loss. And I think sitting right now after 5 games where certainly no one in our program anticipated us being in terms of a 1-loss record. But the kids have, they're resilient. We've got a great attitude within our program right now, staff and student athletes, and you know, put that game in the rearview mirror and look ahead. We got a great challenge this week, heading on the road to play a very, very good and very talented Memphis team. They're 3-2. They're 1-0 in conference. Had a great win on the road at Cincinnati this past week in their conference opener, and are really playing great football right now. They're doing, I think, what you need to do to win football games. They've starting with a turnover margin. They've recovered 6 fumbles. They've forced 6 interceptions. They've only lost 2 fumbles, and they've only thrown 3 interceptions. So they're taking care of business in that category. Offensively, Paxton Lynch is doing a great job. They're balanced. I think they're rushing for somewhere around 210 yards a game, and they're throwing for around 230 yards a game. So they're about 440 of total offense per game. They're balanced. He's making great decisions. He's only been sacked 5 times in 5 games. And on the defensive side of the ball, again, they've done this the last couple of years with Coach Odom as their defensive coordinator. I think they got to be in the top 25 in defense nationally. They've got 12 sacks. They're very, very aggressive. They have a 3-man front, and they like to bring pressure from all over the field. So, be a great challenge for us. Again, said this before, we've got to prepare and really execute in all 3 phases and give our chance to be successful. Questions? Well, we're not going to emphasize turnovers any more this week than we have on either side of the football. You know that there are a lot of things that ended up causing us to lose the game last Thursday night, and it starts with turnovers. We turned it over 3 times, 2 critical interceptions in backed up where we gave Central Florida the ball in really scoring position, and they got 10 points off of those 2 interceptions. But again, we're going to continue to coach it the way we have offensively, and I think we've done a good job for the most part with our ball security in terms of our young men that are running with the football. The 3rd turnover in the last week's game being on that last offensive play. And then defensively, you know, continue to work on it how we have been. I think we've done a good job there. We left a couple on the field the other night that we felt like we could have come up with, and also because we were playing from behind, it felt like the style of Central Florida's offense allowed them to do some things where, had we been able to get ahead, maybe would have had them, you know, more prone to put the ball in the air than they ended up having to do. But we'll continue to coach that extremely hard. We have been. Again, I think throwing the football and throwing interceptions certainly has been a problem thus far through 5 games. Well, you know, we get the ball back. We've got 3 timeouts. We get the ball back just on our side of the 50-yard line. And, you know, we had some young men make some plays. Deontay Greenberry comes up with a big catch over the middle to move the chains and get the ball on their side of the 50. You know, DeMarcus Ayers had a couple catches. Greg Ward did some things with his feet, got us down there, you know, inside the 15-yard line with a chance to win the football game. Greg Ward pulls it down on 1st down and scrambles. We get a holding call on one of our offensive linemen when he scrambles down to the 5, so that backs us up to the 20, and then on the next play, which was our last offensive play, you know, things broke down. They had great coverage. Greg tries to make a play, and I think everybody saw, you know, what happened at the end of that play. So everybody on the sideline, everybody going into the game, everybody on the sideline, all the way until that last play, felt like we were going to win that football game. And again, certainly don't fault Greg for his effort. I felt like Greg being at quarterback and the spark he gave us, the points we scored and the drives we had with him in there gave us a chance to win the game, and ultimately led to my decision this week to start him.
Coach, you mentioned not being where anybody in the program thought you would be after 5 games. What do you consider to be the major factor in why that is?
I think it starts with turnovers, and I think I had a question yesterday as to why teams are losing games in our conference against non-conference opponents. In referencing our first game against UT San Antonio, and 4 interceptions in that game and a couple fumbles, and only getting 1 turnover. It doesn't matter who you play. You're not going to have a very good chance of winning. And again, it's not what we did last year to win 8 games and be in the other games we were as close as we were with top 25 opponents. And it's unfortunately right now we are turning the ball over, specifically throwing interceptions offensively, and because of that and because we've had to fall behind opponents, we are still creating turnovers certainly, but not at the rate at this point that we were last season. And I think that's when you look at what our record is right now, again, you go back to the game Thursday night. I just mentioned the opening game where we're minus, I think, 6 in the turnover margin. We lose that game. You go back to last Thursday night, and both teams made mistakes. At the end of the day, we turned it over 3 times. Twice I gave them 10 points, and they didn't have far to go to get the touchdown and the field goal, and the last one was our final offensive play. And with mistakes that we made in terms of penalties or anything execution-wise, that game Thursday night comes down to us getting 1 turnover and us turning it over 3 times.
How do you keep the guys from not thinking about what's been lost in terms of the hopes were so high going into the season, there's plenty of football left?
Well, I think a couple things, and I think what you just said, there is plenty of football left, and again, we're not big in our program standing up in front of our student athletes and saying, hey, we still have this many games. We're just talking about the one that's in front of us. But we try to show them this is how winning and losing football games works. And in our team meeting the other day, we showed them video of this is literally how this goes hand in hand. The first play of the game on offense, we throw a pass too low and we catch it, but because it's low, we stumble and fall, and we catch a pass and we lose 2 yards. And if we're able to catch that pass and keep our feet, which I want to interpret it as if we make a good throw and he's able to not have to go down to his ankles to make the catch, we have everything blocked up, and at worst we're going to gain 5 yards and get us a 2nd and 5. So instead of that, we lose the 2 yards, we're in 2nd and 12, and on the next play we scramble and we make 11 yards, which goes hand in hand with the first play. If we make the throw and the catch on the first play, that 11-yard scramble gets us to 1st and 10. But because of the loss of 2 yards, the 11-yard scramble gets us to 3rd and 1, and then we make a very selfish, foolish penalty and get a taunting penalty. So 3rd and 1 now becomes 3rd and 16. And we can sleep in the office and look at film, and if we throw and catch that first one and we don't get a taunting penalty, the ball goes from the 25-yard line out to the 40-something yard line, and we're 1st and 10 and moving the chains and having confidence. And instead, we're back at our own 12-yard line punting the football in the 5th play of the football game Thursday night. So I think our young men understand how close we are and the mistakes we made. And we talked about this as a team Sunday. We're going to get a holding call. We're going to get an inadvertent face mask on defense. But the false starts, of which we had 2 the other night, the delay a game, of which we had 1 the other night, we had 2 taunting penalties, which are certainly uncharacteristic of the 2 young men that received those penalties in our program. Those are all things we control, and we got to get cleaned up. And I think our student athletes recognize, while we're sitting here with a 2-3 record and an 0-1 conference record, how close we are to having a much better record than that. Obviously, nothing's going to change in those first 5 games. We got to correct it and move forward. And if we take care of our business in the turnover battle and play smarter football in terms of penalties, there's no reason why we can't be successful moving forward and still achieve the goals we have out in front of us. I think our defense is playing exceptionally well right now, and I think they've got great confidence. I think they've got an identity. I think when you come out of a game and we didn't get the turnovers like we did not get last Thursday night, we only got the one. You can still look at the stats and say we're playing outstanding football. I think we had, as a goal, we want to have under 10 missed tackles and under 10 assignment errors. I think we had 4 assignment errors and 3 or 4 missed tackles. And I think they had a 52-yard touchdown reception on one of the certainly a critical missed tackles. But other than that, I think they passed for a little over 100 yards. So 52 of it came on the one play, and I want to say they had somewhere in the low to mid 200s in total offense. So, our defense I think is playing exceptionally well. They're keeping us in these games up to this point.